a conversation about climate and energy. We are receiving Roland Stein, engineer, author, founder at PTS Advance. Good afternoon, Ronald. It's a pleasure having you here in our
Ar-
program again.
Armando, glad to be aboard.
Thank you. Congratulations on your participation in the live conversation with three other scientists on the
Yes,
Newsmax prime time. I have here uh, the website. Website is acclimateconversation.com.
right. Yeah, you can just
Uh,
log on, sign up, and yeah, you can get it. And it's a great educational conversation and not confrontational. It's
yeah,
just a conversation about, you know, where we're at. And yeah, I
understanding some points that are critical for the global humanity now. And that there is a participant, and there was a participant in this game called Walt Johnson, a
yes,
geophysicist, I suppose.
right.
And he put some charts. Let me show. I don't know if you remember exactly the interpretation of that this one,
Oh,
but
yeah,
the
yeah,
temperature along the entire history of human history. No,
right. Yeah.
fantastic because yeah.
We
Go
tend
ahead,
we
please.
tend we tend to look at the very far right hand corner when
Uh
it's
huh.
going up. That's the temperature change. But if you take a look to the left through the history, because Walt Johnson talks to rocks, he's a geologist, and the rocks don't lie to him. And so when you take a look at the history, just like looking at the tree trunk, you can see the rings of a tree. The trees talk back to you. Well, in his case, the rocks talk back to him. But yeah, when you take a look at the history of the world, you go back, thousands of years, before BC and everything, it was
Mhm.
pretty hot on Earth. And yeah, humans had no influence, and there was very few people living on Earth at that time.
Oh, it's impressive. This chart, impressive. And
Yes,
another one that he showed that I oh so sorry is this one is about CO2 emissions.
yes. Yeah, everybody takes a look at the very far right hand corner where, CO2 is going up. But when you take a look back in history, yeah, we're at the low point of CO2, and you know, forestation doesn't do as well in low CO2. They grow better in higher concentration of CO2, and when you got higher concentration of CO2, they also take less water to keep them going. So, yeah, the Earth was warmer and greener in the past, and but yeah, we tend to look at that very far right hand corner where it's blipping up, and we just magnify that. But if you take a look back in history, talk to the rocks, talk to the
Yeah,
trees,
yeah,
and you see that it's a different story. That it
yeah,
fluctuates quite a bit, and we're at a low point of a lot of stuff right now.
yeah. Perfect, perfect. Ronald, you mentioned in our previous conversation about the distinction between energy and electricity.
Yes,
You said that the world population went from 1 to 8 billion in less than 20 years, 200 years.
yes,
And
yeah,
please explain this vision that you
yeah.
have.
Right after the discovery of oil 200 years ago, because the world was kind of like a billion people, almost forever going backwards, and then with human ingenuity, we've been able to develop a lot of manufacture oil derivatives out of crude oil and make all these products. And today, we have 6,000 products in our daily lives, and it's basically allowed the population to populate. We have infrastructures, we got transportation, we have hospitals, which we didn't have 200 years ago. We have appliances, which we didn't have 200 years ago, electronics, all the communications, the space program, we've got heating and ventilating. All this didn't exist, 200 years ago. And now we have it. We live in a much more comfortable environment, and we're able to populate, and life longevity has gone up. And, before in the 1940s, it was around, 40 years of age. Now it's I think it's over 80 years of age, and so yeah, we're healthier, and climate-related deaths have almost disappeared because if it's hot, you basically use air conditioning. If it's cold, you put on more clothes. Well, you didn't have those options before all these products were available. So, yeah, you got to take a look at. It was, we're now a very materialistic society, and we depend on crude oil for all those materials. And like I say, it's a great life, and we're enjoying it.
And this quality, we cannot, let's say, leave this quality suddenly. How can we treat this level of quality that we have today?
Well, we can't. I think you can see that right now just in the homeless population. Now, the homeless population still has the benefit of having sleeping bags and tents made out of fossil fuels. But I mean, they have that, but they don't have the clean water, the clean sanitation. They don't have access to the medical goodies. And yeah, you're right. They're basically withdrawn from a lot of the stuff that we have easy access to and we take for granted. As I mentioned before, take a look at your house and your workplace, the hospital. Try and identify something that was not made with the oil derivatives from fossil fuels. Because crude oil, as I mentioned before, by itself is useless. It's black, cruddy tar. But when you can, manufacture, and when you see these refineries with all this equipment around there, they're heating it, they're cracking it, they're beating it, they're cooling it, they're doing all kinds of crazy things to it. But they're getting all these derivatives that's allowing us to live the lifestyle we have. Today we have, there's 50,000 merchant ships in the world. There's 20,000 commercial aircraft in the world. There's 50,000 military aircraft in the world. And these things didn't exist, a couple hundred years ago. And today they're needed to basically get food and medicine to the people around the world because, not one country can grow all their own food. It's grown in different countries and just move it back and forth, across the country and across the world. And it's interesting. I mean, I've got a question for our president, Joe Biden. Joe Biden his campaign was, we're going to get rid of fossil fuels. Well, he wants to get rid of crude oil. Now, he's done a lot of cancellation of leases. So he's stopping future drilling. The current drilling is still going on, thank God. But if Biden ceases all this oil production in America, when's he going to educate the public about his alternative source for the products and the components to support the Army, the Air Force, the Marines, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the space programs? They're all reliant on the crude oil for those products and fuels. He has no backup plan. He just wants to get rid of crude oil. And like you say, that's got to be an interesting conversation if we could have it with him.
Yeah. But the advantage to ban oil is that Israel and Hamas cannot attack themselves.
No. It's interesting. I saw a chart. In fact, you probably won't be able to read it, but there's a chart here of oil production around the world, and and it seems like every country has oil. Obviously, United States and Saudi Arabia have the most of it, but United Arab Republic, Canada, Iran, Russia, they're all represented, and it's amazing that everybody's got some of the oil, but you got to refine it and get the products and have the pipelines to get access to it. Now the thing with happening in Israel and the war is, they've cut off Hamas, and I don't know, that's a terrible situation. They're going to run out of food and water and electricity. The hospitals are overburdened.
No doubt, terrible. And it's impressive because OPEC is predicting that the demand, the consumption for the future, 2045, they predict going from 100 million barrels a day to 116 million barrels a day. What do you
Well,
think about that?
I think I think that's the right projection. We're going up because, of the 8 billion in this world, only, a couple billion are in the wealthy countries. The United States, UK, Australia, Germany. But of those 8 billion, more than 6 billion of those people, about 80% of them, are living on less than $10 a day. And those are the people that I want to say haven't joined the Industrial Revolution yet. And if they join the Industrial Revolution, they're going to want the same iPhones and iPads and air conditioning and be able to, cook food and not burn cow dung in their house to get heat. And so if those 6 billion start, quote, quote, demanding oil products, demand for oil is going to go up.
Yeah. Let me show a picture, a very important picture. The lady from Sweden.
Oh, my
Greta.
friend Greta, yes.
That's a point. Of course, your friend said we are destroying the world. But there is something important because today she was arrested again.
Good.
Because, yeah. But what do you think about this speech of this young lady?
Well, when teenage Greta Thunberg, begins to educate her followers about, does she have an alternative source for the products and components that build wind turbines? I mean, she wants everything to go wind and solar. But Armando, all the components of wind turbines and all the components of solar panels is made from crude oil production. And if she ceases crude oil production in refineries and gets rid of crude oil, we're going to, the 8 billion people on this planet are going to have to live on less oil. And the wealthy countries are the ones that are going to suffer. The 6 billion I mentioned before, they're not going to suffer because they don't have anything now. But if you take away oil from the wealthy countries, then this conversation might come to an end. We may not be able to replace our iPhone iPads.
In the middle of conversation with the other three guys, you speculated about that we cannot clone oil, and we cannot. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, everything, everybody gets a patent on something. Your patent's protected for so long before they duplicate it and do something else. We've had 200 years to replace oil. I tell folks, I'm anti-oil. I'm pro-products that we get from oil. I don't need to get it from oil. If we can get it from somewhere else, that's fine. But we've yet to identify how we're going to do that. And we've got to start, because if we run out of oil, there'll be nothing to make the iPhones and the iPads.
This concept is very, very important. So you are not defending oil, you are defending the products of oil. And if you can replace oil from another source, it's okay.
Oh, fine. Yes. Yeah, I'm, like I say, I'm definitely not pro-oil. I'm definitely pro the products. It's the products we live on. And, if you can, make my iPhone out of hay or something, great, but do it, But there's no backup plan. That's the problem. Everybody's complaining about oil and they want to get rid of it. But, even Greta, I mean, she's flying around in airplanes that are made with oil and powered by aviation fuel from oil. You get rid of oil, ground all the planes.
Let's go a little bit to the geopolitics, because politicians are trying to take decisions in name of the all planet, the population. How do you see this intervention?
Well, the politicians and the policymakers in the few wealthy countries, it's only the wealthy countries that are pushing this movement. They're just caught up. They're all drinking the same Kool-Aid. They're not cognizant enough to understand that there's yet to be identified a replacement for crude oil, because they like to live their same lifestyle and fly and vacation here, there, and everywhere. But crude oil now is the basis that's providing the products and the fuels to accomplish this. And every infrastructure we have is supporting, the billions on this planet. Ridding the world of raw crude oil before we have that replacement, Armando, that places us back in the 1800s. In the 1800s, they had no oil. We know how they lived. It was a pretty tough life. And the greatest threat to the world's population, like I say, we populated from 1 to 8 billion, because we have, food. We can grow food anywhere around the world and move it anywhere around the world. And we got medication to keep people healthy and hospitals to keep them alive. But the greatest threat to those 8 billion people is going to be shortages of the oil derivatives to make all the products. And like I say, that's supporting the 6,000 products in our daily lives. If we, reduce those oil derivatives, we're going to reduce the amount of products, and it's going to be a big effect. Shockingly, very few parents, including the parents of Greta Thunberg, they don't have a clue or understanding of what the basis of the products in our daily lives are.
Yeah, but that's a point. So, did someone explain to her that the importance of the products, and of course that we cannot replace oil today, we need to create something different? So she cannot understand this point. Why?
I don't know if she can't understand it. She won't participate in the conversation. Like I say, she's got her mind made up, and that's the end of it. She's the energy expert of the world. So, but no, if we could sit down and have a conversation, like I say, I'm all for getting rid of oil, but if we do that, she's not going to be able to fly. Yeah. I mean, one time she refused to fly because she was using fossil fuels to fly the airplane. Oh, so she sailed. Well, the sailboat was made with fossil fuels.
Oh my God.
And so it's like I say, it's a lifestyle change. And as we talked about in the film, A Climate Conversation, CO2 is not impacting temperature. In fact, CO2 is almost at the level that life cannot exist. We're at 420, and I think the level was 170 or 180, that plants cannot survive at CO2 that was low. And greenhouses that grow plants, they artificially increase their CO2s to like 1,200 parts per million, about 3 times what we have right now. So the plants grow quicker and faster, and they're more abundant. But it's like I say, I would just love to have a conversation with Greta. Right now she just speaks into the microphone, and that's it.
Yeah, conversation and education, because how can we educate about energy? I mean, putting these concepts in the milk boxes and pizza boxes, how can we do that?
Right. Well, I'd like to get the conversation geared around one of two things. You want to talk about electricity, or you want to talk products? Because they're lumping it all into energy. And they're saying that wind and solar is going to replace crude oil. Well, Armando, wind and solar does something totally different than oil. Wind and solar can generate intermittent electricity. Oil is never used to generate electricity. Oil is only used to be manufactured into, these derivatives that makes all the products in our lives, and different fuels for, the space program, for the military, trucks, cars, ships, and they do different things. And so I would like to have the conversation geared around, do you want electricity? Then you can argue, wind and solar, or nuclear or whatever. I mean, even nuclear, you can't build nuclear power plants without oil, because all the parts for nuclear are made with oil. All the parts for natural gas is made with oil. Hydropower plants, and all the nuclear, components is made with oil.
And nuclear can produce only electricity, not products.
Right. They like I say, the electricity, as I mentioned before, it can charge your iPhone, but it cannot make the It can make the defibrillator in the hospital work, but it can't make the defibrillator. Yeah. And so everything that needs electricity, i.e., the iPhone, the defibrillator, is made with fossil fuels.
Yeah. But do you believe that wind and solar will increase, will grow the portion of the electricity to make electricity, or and cannot reduce the oil consumption? Nothing, or a little bit
No,
only.
no, it might be increasing oil consumption because you need a backup because wind and solar is only providing intermittent electricity, so you need a
Yeah,
backup. So all you're doing is you're building a redundant power supply
that's right.
to augment the continuous uninterruptible power you have.
With natural gas, probably.
And certain climates, I'm here in California, we have a temperate climate, so wind and solar work pretty well here. But in North Dakota in the winter, I'm not sure wind and solar either are going to work. And
Oh
so,
my God.
and if you're in the hospital operating room, you would like to have the electricity on all the time.
Yeah, that's right. Cannot fail.
No, no, no. When it goes dark and the surgeon is
Oh
over
my
you.
God.
So
Oh
no,
my.
it's a different world. And like I said, I'm here in California. Governor Newsom, he wants everybody to get rid of all this oil. He keeps reducing in-state oil production. We're importing it from other locations around the world. But again, Governor Newsom has yet to educate Californians as to where they're going to get their products and components to support the EVs. EVs are made with all these components that are made from oil, the tires, the insulation, all the
Petrochemical.
electronics. Yeah, petrochemical. And, like I said, he wants us to all be driving EVs, but he doesn't want to use oil. Well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't, Presidents Joe Biden, California Governor Newsom, teenager Greta Thunberg, they want to rid the world of crude oil usage, but they need to belly up to the bar and explain how humanity can continue to enjoy the products and fuels that are currently made with the oil derivatives, manufacturing crude oil, that they wish to eliminate. And like I say, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
How people like Bill Gates and similar of him are thinking about these issues?
Well, a good thing about Gates, I think he's starting to invest money in nuclear, into some of the new technologies, because that's the thing that's surprising. People want zero emission electricity, but they're not supporting nuclear, which is zero emission electricity. It's continuous, it's uninterruptible. It requires almost no land compared to wind and solar. And it's ironic, the wealthy countries are not doing very much. But I think internationally, there's, 60 nuclear power plants being built, mostly in Russia and China.
Yeah.
They've got the nuclear technology. They're ahead of the game. But the wealthy countries are, like I say, they're against oil and they're against nuclear. And so, yeah, we're going to see, Russia and China dominate the nuclear technology, and it's, the latest advancements that's going on.
So at the same time that California is trying to save CO2 emission, China is not taking care of this issue. So the world, the planet is one only. How can we deal with that?
Well, you're right, Armando, because in the entire world, right now there was about 700 refineries in the entire world that manufacture this crude oil into the derivatives and fuels, supplying all the ships and planes and et cetera, and with all the pressure from the wealthy countries, about 20% of those are projected to shut down in the next 5 years. Now that's 140 manufacturers that are manufacturing all the derivatives that makes all the products in our daily lives and the fuels for all the transportation, different infrastructures. And like I say, 140 are going to be shutting down. So you're going to have inflation and shortages in perpetuity. But when you take a look at Asia, whoa, they're pursuing they're not abandoning oil. They were looking at their economy, their military,
coal.
their strategic ambitions. They're actually building 88 new refineries in Asia.
And coal plants.
Oh yes, yeah. They keep right. Coal's, it's abundant, it's reliable, it's affordable. Yeah, the coal plants are still running, but yeah, they'll be providing. We know that China controls a lot of the exotic minerals and metals to go green, lithium and the cobalt. That's why I wrote that book, that Clean Energy Exploitations. And now we're going to be relying on them not only to go green, but we'll be at the mercy of the oil derivatives to make our iPhones and iPads. And so it's, supply and demand. We have the demand and they got the supply.
Very good. But was a nice conversation with your friends, three scientists, guys. Was very interesting, and the production was perfect too. So the introduction of that lady, very
Yeah,
clear.
Kim Monson, yes. Yeah, the visuals came in too because, when we were talking about the exotic minerals and metals, there was a lot of visuals of the countries where they're coming from, and it's really terrible conditions they live in,
Yeah,
and we're exploiting people who have yellow, brown, and black skin,
yeah.
so we can feel good about going green. And I think it's unethical and immoral, but until we have further discussions, as I mentioned, I'm not willing to financially support that environmental degradation and humanity atrocities. If other people are, that's their personal decision. But I'm not sure they know that. And, the government, they're providing incentives to continue the exploiting the people in these foreign countries. And, they're destroying their water, destroying the land. And
Yeah, it's a big problem.
yeah,
Really is. So I strongly recommend the aclimateconversation.com, where we mentioned that has this film. But I have the last point that I would like to clarify with you, Ronald, please.
yes.
How happy you be when you start driving your EV from 0 to 100 in 4 seconds?
Well, I won't be driving my EV because I won't be buying an EV. So, no, it's an interesting world we're in, and the other thing too about all the EVs is they go into 10, 20 years. Same thing with solar and wind. 20 years after they're installed, then we're going to start seeing other problems about. Right now there's no proven way to recycle these wind turbines,
Yeah,
to recycle these solar panels, and
big problem.
how do you recycle the batteries? And I know here in California, they want the 18-wheeler trucks to go EVs. And, we know the Tesla has a 1,000-pound battery. The 18-wheelers have an 8,000-pound battery.
Oh my God.
It's just amazing. I don't know. It's like I say, when we get into it and more people see the fact that it's not as rosy as it's projected to be, besides all the other, drawbacks about, supporting developing countries to exploiting people and destroying their land, there's got to be a conversation. And
Yeah, we need to talk a lot
yes,
about that. Yeah, people need. Was a nice conversation with Ronald Stein today. Thank you so much.
Armando, you have a great
Pleasure.
day. Okay,
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
We are in challenging times, but like I say, we're off air now.